Hi, today I want to talk to you about the black Hebrews, and the reason I feel that I have to make this video is ultimately because scripture is being perverted. Friends, I don't have to tell you that the main reason this group claims to be the genetic descendants of Israel is basically because they claim that every curse found in what they call the Old Testament refers only to Africans and not to people who claim to be Jews today. Look, today, my friends, we're going to analyze those curses and see if their claim is true. Now, I'm not making this video because I think that race or ethnicity matters, because I don't. Actually, we know in Judaism that converts are more special to the Almighty than born Jews. So no, friends, I'm making this video to attack racism and through clarity destroy any notions that anyone because of race or ethnicity is intrinsically good or bad in any way. And this is just one video in my series, Debunking Black Hebrew Theology, so you can look it up on YouTube. Now, there are certain principles we have to adhere to in order for us to classify a prophecy correctly. You'll see that many curses could be speaking of exile, affliction, captivity. However, for a curse to possibly include black Hebrews, it could not include occupation or exile, obviously, because according to black Hebrew Israelite theology, the Jews were exiled and taken into captivity from Africa, not Israel. Now, historically, Jews could be exiled from other lands, and they have been, but these curses are speaking about the Holy Land that they're about to possess. So, in other words, being that the black Hebrew Israelites claim that all these prophecies are definitely about them, in order for them to have a valid argument, every one of those prophecies must be exclusively applicable to them. If not, we have to side with the party whose claim is the oldest. That's just common sense, which are what they call the so-called Jews today. Today, we're going to study the curses found in Deuteronomy 28. So, here we go. Number 1, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, and to observe and to do all his commandments which I command you this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. 2, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, and if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Now, pause. This is a biblical principle that all curses found in Scripture are warnings and all blessings are conditional promises. In other words, only because there's a curse that appears in the Bible does not mean that it must take place. No, friends, Israel, by keeping God's commandments, could lead an existence of blessing. And being that this chapter is both blessings and cursings, we'll just forward to the curses, right? We're going to forward to verse 15. 15, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. 16, cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. 17, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. 18, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kin, and the flocks of thy sheep. Pause. Here, it still hasn't mentioned exile, for the fruit of thy land is Israel, right? The land is Israel. Now note, the Israelites haven't entered Israel yet. And if you haven't noticed already, Deuteronomy 28 is a collection of different curses for different times. Okay, reading on. Verse 19. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. 20. The Lord shall send upon thee cursings, vexation, and rebuke, in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. Now you guys are probably wondering, why am I reading from the King James Version? Well, because I'm trying to impact Hebrew Israelites who only go by the King James. Not too smart anyways. Verse 21, the Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. 22, the Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew. And they shall pursue thee until thou perish. Pause. Now, these curses till now have all been generic curses that really could apply to anyone claiming to be Israel. And because they're not exclusively referring to race, but just biblical Israel. We could only assume that they're referring to those who have held the title Israel the longest, right? Because modern day Jews did not begin claiming to be Israel last century like the black Hebrews did. No, friends. History has shown us that Middle Eastern Jews and European Jews have been claiming the title even before it was prestigious to do so. Anyways, reading on, verse 23. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thy feet shall be iron. 24. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee, until thou be destroyed. Verse 25. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Now, here we have the first mention of exile, but it's interesting how it mentions all the kingdoms of the earth, which is where history tells us the Jews went, into all the kingdoms, including, but not exclusively, Africa. Anyways, reading on, 26. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. Verse 27, the Lord will smite thee with the blotch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. Pause. Interesting that here it is literally referring to Egypt, not America, which is really not here or there because in the previous verse it stated all the kingdoms of the earth. So again, clearly this chapter does not refer to one curse, but like we said, to many different curses. In other words, according to black Hebrew theology, not solely to the United States. But anyways, reading on. Verse 28, the Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Verse 29, and thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. 30, thou shalt betroth the wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. And thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Friends, till now, still no exclusivity. Again, these curses are referring to the tragedies befallen Israel because they haven't kept God's instructions. Tragedies that we could see fulfilled throughout Israelite or Jewish history. However, according to black Hebrew Israelite theology, those tragedies were only Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, Africa, and then America. And I don't have to mention that there are no historical records of Muslim slave traders ever exiling or trading the Jewish people from Africa, or any other group claiming to be the original Jews. However, those of us who know Jewish history correctly know it better as Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, and after the destruction of our temple, this has been documented and recorded. These individuals were exiled and suffered as Jews. And note, it wasn't popular to suffer pain and ridicule or even death for your belief system. But they did. And now a group arises up and claims suddenly that they are the real Israelites when it's beneficial to be. Wake up, my friends, and get out of this silly religion. Regardless, verse 31, thine axe shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Pause. This here refers to exile and not slavery or captivity, because you don't own anything as a slave. But regardless, reading on, verse 32, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given to another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. Verse 33, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Pause. Here it can't be referring to the United States because it states the fruit of thy land. It's clearly speaking of occupation. And one of the main disadvantages of silly groups going only by the King James is that obviously they limit themselves. And here is a great example. Friends, nation is the Hebrew word goy. Am means people, not nation. Now, obviously, Am doesn't exclude nationhood, but it literally means people. So at least this verse can't be used to refer solely to America. And it's funny how a fake Jew like me, supposedly, is teaching the real Jews Hebrew, right? But regardless, reading on, verse 34. So thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. Verse 35, the Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed, from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head. Verse 36, the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou hast set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. Pause. This is one of the most used verses by black Hebrews who claim that this is strictly referring to America. But let's analyze it. It starts out basically by dating the curse. It states, when Israel arrives at that place, they will do so with their king. Interesting, huh? Let's see what Scripture has to say about the fulfillment of this prophecy. Jeremiah 32 states, and he shall lead Zedekiah to Babylon, and there he shall be until I visit him, saith the Lord. Though ye fight with the Chaldeans, ye shall not prosper, referring to when Judah was taken into captivity with their king to Babylon, a nation that their fathers obviously didn't know. Fulfillment of prophecy. How about 2 Kings 17 verse 1 through 6? It says, in the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea son of Elah became king of Israel and Samaria, and he reigned 9 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, but not like the kings of Israel who preceded him. Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up to attack Hoshea, who had been Shalmaneser's vassal, and had paid him tribute. But the king of Assyria discovered that Hoshea was a traitor, for he had sent envoys to the king of Egypt, and he no longer paid tribute to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore Shalmaneser seized him and put him in prison. The king of Assyria invaded the entire land, marched against Samaria, and laid siege for it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and departed the Israelites to Assyria. He settled them in Hala, in Gozan, and in the harbor river, and in the towns of the Medes. Sounds like a fulfillment of prophecy to me. And about this place, referring to America as a nation we did not know, Jeremiah quotes the same verse. In Jeremiah 9:16, I will scatter them among the Gentiles, whom neither they nor their fathers have known. So, what does it mean here? Again, far be it from me to try to teach Hebrew to the supposedly real Israelites, but what does the word Gentile mean in Hebrew? Friends, it means nations. So by it being plural here, it shows that it does not specifically mean America, and actually seems that the Almighty who is speaking through Jeremiah is telling us that the prophecy is being fulfilled in Jeremiah with the Babylonian captivity that we just read in chapter 32 of Jeremiah above. So, checkmate. 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. Verse 38, thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shall gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it.